Hello, everybody. It's Zach Evanesh, my boy, Paul Kolody. We're doing a duo podcast we haven't done it for a while. My fault mainly. New Jersey High School Strength Coach podcast and Strong Life podcast. Strong Life podcast, I'm always talking about strength and conditioning, but I apply it beyond high school age athletes. New Jersey High School Strength Coach podcast, we do to educate and help members of the NHS-SCA. That's the National High School Strength Coach Association, nhssca.us or .us. And it's an amazing community. So we've got the state clinic coming up in mid-March. It's usually like a week after the winter season is over. I kind of remember it's after the state tournament is over. So it's going to be a great event. Great networking, great information. I will post a link to that in the information section. There's a very significant discount for college students in there. I think it's really cheap. But Paul and I are both high school strength coaches full-time. Paul, I think, was really like one of the first full-time strength coaches at the public school level in New Jersey. Am I right? I don't know.
I don't know. I know that I believe I'm the first that's on the guide, and I'm 10-year track, everything without teaching a class.
That's right. No, not teaching. Whereas myself, I'm under the physical education staff. Next year, my one physical education class is going to be a strength and conditioning class where kids sign up for it through guidance, and they do not. The only time they won't go to regular phys ed. And the only time they'll be out is for driver's ed sophomore year and health class the other 3 years. We've got a couple other coaches in New Jersey at the public school level, but through the day, they're teaching traditional phys ed class. I think Rob Orrock gets it done during the day. He's predominantly in the weight room. So building, but we've got a lot of work to do in New Jersey. And so, Paul, we're going to talk about two things before you got to go in the next 20, 25 minutes. Number one, I saw your mission posted on your Instagram. I'll link your Instagram up. I think is it Coach Paul Kolody on Instagram?
Yeah, I just started my own Instagram. It's Coach Kolody. Yep.
Coach Kolody, not Coach Paul Kolody.
Yep.
Nice. And so your kind of motto was make athletes athletic again.
Yep.
And one thing that I want to talk about is attendance. And I think those two are going to go hand in hand. Because if you lack attendance, I always see it like the kids that don't show up consistently, it's like they lose coordination. It's like they haven't been here before, even if they've been doing, quote unquote, I'm going to the gym on my own. I mean, I had a kid today who's a sophomore, and he struggled to do a proper pull-up, and he was like swinging his legs. I said, bro, I taught you how to do pull-ups, close to 2 years ago, because football starts the end of 8th grade, football training. But when you go to a traditional gym, like if I want to go get a protein shake from Retro Fitness, I just turn around and I watch for a few minutes. And there's a lot of phone checking, tons of cable, and tons of sitting on the butt exercises. So what inspired you with this motto of the make athletes athletic again?
Yeah, make our players athletic again.
There we go.
I put it on the board today. Our kids, like you said, coordination-wise, they may be good. I distinguish them by athlete or athletic. So our sprinters are in here today, but yet our sprinters struggled to do a split jerk, catching the bar underneath with a split stance, going from a squat to getting the bar over their head. Athletically, I think that's an athletic movement. A clean is an athletic movement. Throwing a medicine ball is an athletic movement the right way. And we've talked about that in a bunch of our conferences. Our kids don't know how to do those things. They know how to play lacrosse. They know how to run and sprint. Our lacrosse players should be blowing up the wall. I have a med ball wall. They don't know how to throw a med ball. It sounds like a pillow hitting the wall instead of an explosion when they throw that. To use that power, to me, that's athletic, not just playing your sport. So using tumbling and cartwheels and throwing med balls, all of those things to get kids to understand that there's more than just picking up a stick or, being on the mat. I've seen a lot of wrestlers who are great wrestlers, but you ask them to do something else, like dribble a basketball. They can't do it. They can't do a lot of those things. And I think they become better athletes if they were more athletic. If that makes sense.
100%. So I'm going to pick up my phone, and my buddy John Wellborn, founder of Power Athlete, they defined athleticism. So I'm going to see if I could pull it up. Let's do a little Siri. Power Athlete athleticism. Let's see if I could pull up the definition. Oh, so they put it into a blog post, and let's see if John, so he said he looked up the definition of an athlete. Webster Dictionary defines an athlete as a person who is trained or skilled in exercises, sports, or games requiring physical strength, agility, or stamina. And so this is a longer blog post, but I want to get down to the athleticism, because he says, is Tiger Woods athletic because he could hit a ball far, or does it take athleticism to hit the golf ball? So let's find the definition here. Let's see if we put it in. Oh, yeah. Basically, I remember his saying was like the ability to move aimlessly and seamlessly through space. Questions about paraathlete. Of course, I can't find. Here we go. I'm just going to text him. So in a nutshell, if we try to break this down, when I think of what you said, like athletes who are struggling to move, let me see this. John, please send me your definition of athleticism.
I learned, my Uncle Bob was a phys ed teacher a long time ago.
Where was he a phys ed teacher?
In Bridgewater,
Yes.
at Eisenhower School. So he taught at the elementary school. He was a nationally known lead up. You remember the old term lead up games?
Yes.
Lead up games specialist. And I went and I observed him for a couple of days, and he had squares on the one side of the gym, and the gyms were all just cinder block back then. And he had all his kids lined up, and he had balls on the ground. And he'd say, okay, for the next minute, I want you to kick the ball as hard as you can at the square. And when it comes back, you put it down and kick it again. When it comes back, put it down and kick it again. And he would do it for a minute with the right foot. Then he'd do a minute with the left foot.
Yes, I remember this game.
The next day I went, he had him throw a ball at the wall, hard as they could. And that was all just about being athletic. It wasn't about baseball, lacrosse, football, anything. It was just about how to throw and kick the ball.
Check this out. I think I remember him speaking at a conference, because I started, I did my student teaching in the fall of 1997, elementary and high school.
Yep.
And so I was a substitute teacher from January through the end of the school year. I was going to many schools. And one of our teachers, who was big in like the administrative aspect and also a phys ed teacher, he brought me to they had amazing in-services. Today, in-services, it's weird. Schools have gone backwards with them. They don't bring in amazing guest speakers anymore. They just say, get together with your colleagues and share best practices. And then everybody kind of complains about it. But what you're talking about, when I was at the elementary school, Paul, we had 10 months of a school year. I did 10 different sports. So I mean, I remember having kids bring baseball gloves to school and throwing softballs. I can't, like baseballs, that would never happen. We did a full month of gymnastics where they started off with basic forward roll, basic backward roll. Then somebody holds your ankles, walking on your hands, cartwheel left, cartwheel right. Okay, do a cartwheel, and then seamlessly flow into a forward roll. We had all the foam obstacles. So a pommel horse made out of foam. That stuff is tremendous. And I clearly remember going to many wrestling clubs. I would go to wrestling clubs, take them through a body weight, hands-on training session, lots of gymnastics. And then I was at a wrestling club, and this one kid, I think, took 4th in the state. And I had them do cartwheels. And then I said, now come back. I said, face this way, lead to your left. Come back, face the same wall, lead to your right. Kids would do a cartwheel, but their legs could not go that direction. They were discombobulated, and they were kind of like falling over on their back. And that was the beginning of me learning and seeing great athlete, struggling to be athletic.
Yeah. That's exactly what we were talking about. And I think if we don't start getting back to that, and I know everybody, demonizes it, but dodgeball, learning how to throw, learning how to get out of the way, learning how to react, not only from one thing happening, but how many people are throwing at you at one time, and you have to try and react to two or
It's
three
excellent.
different things happening at once.
Great warm up.
Yeah, talk about being in a sport. I think Mark Hoover, and we're going to see him in a couple of weeks, said if you're just doing the weight room as a strength coach, you're a dinosaur. That you're not doing the speed, the game speed, the change of direction,
Game
the
speed.
footwork, all of those things built in. And I'm going to adding athletic movements into your warm up and into your workout. I think that's a big component of what's going to get our kids better.
It's huge. I have that membership website, the Underground Strength Academy. I'm always filming a different warm-up and putting it in there because I feel like that athletic warm-up, when combined with proper strength training, is what builds athleticism. So we might do stuff like do 3 vertical jumps, then do a forward roll, sprint down, then back pedal, just mixing it up. Cartwheel left, cartwheel right, carry somebody on your back. Yeah. Instead of just bear crawling forwards, backwards, bear crawl sideways. What my coach, Andrew, we try to record some videos each night. One race was really cool. They started in the bottom of a push-up facing each other. You do a push-up, you log roll one way, log roll back the other way, then explode out and go into a sprint. And so changing direction, getting your body comfortable, moving from different positions, and athleticism builds better athletes. I want to go back to just say one thing also. I just posted this on Twitter. I think now we're just going in too many extremes rather than well-rounded, meaning there's so much focus on what's your flying 10, what's your vertical jump, what's your speed and miles per hour. Well, some of those kids are so fast, but because they're being not in the weight room and you're like, oh, we got the fastest times, those kids, break in half when they get tackled, or they break a bone. I've seen it happen. And so a smart, intelligent coach will strategically marry those elements together. Okay, we're going to do squats and cleans and lunges and split squats and presses of all sorts and be great at calisthenics. Why? Body armor, build strength, use the weights, but put speed behind it. Okay, well, what if you don't have something to track velocity and tell somebody they're going too heavy, going too light? Coach's eye. There's I've read it somewhere. I can't remember where. I wish I could give credit, and I apologize for this. 3 red lights: bad technique, bar too slow, missing reps. So those were the red lights if you don't have technology. I can't remember who said that, but we got to be careful. And by we, it's the coaches they're going too much to the extreme of the spectrum. Marry it all together.
Just using one thing, throwing out the baby with the bathwater. So they see one thing and they throw it all out and they think, all right, this is the number one thing. But if you talk to Tony, he'll say once he gets his guys fast for the combine, then he starts to slow them down because they can't run routes that fast. So they have to be able to stop, break, be athletic. And that's a big deal.
That's where aspects of Cal Dietz's triphasic, or these are very old training methods that even like bodybuilders were using. Slow eccentrics. It builds muscle. It helps an athlete put on the brakes, so that could help with change of direction. It also strengthens tendons and ligaments. So it's building resiliency and durability in athletes. And so if you're always accelerating, go ahead, I'll take over. Go get a drink.
I gotta go get some water. I'll be right back.
Yeah, I'll keep this going. So if you're always accelerating and jumping and kind of moving into the speed, but you don't know how to do eccentrics, or the athlete cannot control the eccentric on a barbell or dumbbell or calisthenic movement, and they can't do pause reps, that's a red flag. So for today at my high school, the program incorporated pause squats and kids were forgetting to pause, or they were going down too quickly that they could not pause. And so I had to bring them all in and talk about these things. And the interesting thing also is you have different challenges at the high school sector with these large groups compared to the private sector. So context is very important. You might watch a video on social media, especially Twitter and Instagram, the blurbs, the quick videos. And Paul, I'm talking about context. I said at my high school today, I had pause squats. Some kids couldn't pause because they were going down too fast. They lacked eccentric control, or they forgot. And I said, these are issues I might encounter at the high school with large groups, because there's 30, 40 to 60 kids in a group or more. So you go over the instructions, then they get distracted, and all they remembered is squat, not pause squat. Before break, we did 3 weeks of eccentric squats, eccentric bench. Normally, you want an 8 to 10 second eccentric, but I don't have enough equipment. It doubles the wait time, and it causes kind of lack of focus. So I do a 5 count eccentric. But I find that, and you also coach at a private facility, you encounter different challenges in the high school sector with large groups, with people who are not paying to train with you, versus the private sector. And so context is very, very important. You might watch a video on social, and then you think you're going to apply it to your group of 50, when the video you're watching, the guy is training somebody he's worked with for 3 years in a one-on-one setting or a 1 to 3 setting. It doesn't often add up.
Yeah. I call it collapse control. Gravity is trying to pull you down every single day, especially when you're standing up. And most of the people do their core training lying down. So
yes,
when the muscles and everything work differently when you stand up. If you listen to Gary Gray, he used to call it it wasn't pillar core, but it was something where it was a cylinder around your body, so your body wouldn't collapse. So we talk about that all the time. Control your collapse. Doing a drop, box drop. Control your collapse. Jumping up onto a box. Control your collapse. Throw a med ball. After you throw the med ball, control your collapse, because after you throw the med ball, everything wants to fall forward. You still have to
stabilize.
Yeah. And when Cal Dietz came up with the triphasic, I'm like, oh, this is awesome. This is what we've been doing. And then we started doing that, and the kids start to understand that it's not just a regular rep. It's not a dynamic rep. You got to be able to control it. You got to be able to hold it, and you got to be able to move it fast.
And what I'm learning is more and more, you and I have been doing this for over 2 decades. I'm learning patience. Kids, before the smartphones came out, they turned the corner quickly. They just had more resiliency. They picked up on drills and skills faster. Now I'm learning, it's could take 6 months before you feel like something is actually happening. Whereas, what I used to say in the early days was at my private sector, how long till I see results? 2 weeks. You train here in 6 sessions, you will feel faster, more powerful. You'll be stronger. You'll be able to do more reps in your pull-ups, push-ups. You'll be able to carry more weight. It just had like a very rapid carryover. Now we're moving slow. I see varsity football players who cannot still do a proper push-up. And I think this goes into, I came up with this phrase back in the day when I had a kid who came to me from high school who had the record of, he was doing the bigger, faster, stronger. Yeah. So he had the biggest bench, biggest hang power clean. But he struggled on body weight lunges during the warm-up. He would do 1 set of kettlebell farmer walks, and on the second set, the weights would fly out of his hands. Like his grip just died. So he didn't have staying power, strength, endurance, durability. And I'll never forget the coach, it was a position coach, emailed me and said, hey, I've been following your work for years. So-and-so said he trains with you. He's like, is that the case? Because he's always hurt. He's always on the bench. And he said, he's useless. That's what he said. So that's where I was like, oh, I thought to myself, he's strong, he's got the big numbers, but he's useless in sport. And
Yeah.
look, the opposite could happen if you're extreme with all the sprinting and jumping. You could have, the fastest flying 10 and you could beat everybody in the race, but then you get tackled in a football game and your body just breaks. But, we need you available. The best ability is availability. And so there's a struggle with people learning to marry everything together. And I think some coaches, listen, squatting on Instagram, how cool does that look compared to doing some crazy stuff over hurdles into a box jump? It doesn't look as cool, but for the expert, I could see a great squat from a shitty squat. What's the setup? What's the hand position? How slow do they control the eccentric? What's the head position? So we could all squat, but if it was all the same, how come we're not squatting more than, the guys at whatever, Rutgers University or Penn State? Well, they do it differently. They've got nuance. They're stronger. You got to be strong.
And they're consistent. At Rutgers University, they're 3, 4, 5 days a week. They're living it. Other than going to class and eating right, that's what they're doing. They're there to be great movers, because great movers on Saturday afternoon will be great football players. And that's what they're looking for.
And I know you got to go soon. I had a great conversation with a high school strength coach in another state. And he said, Zach, you have to learn to emotionally pick your battles. He's like, you're going to get emotionally drained, always worrying about who's not showing up, what coach shows up year round versus the coach that only shows up in season. He's like, you put in your passion, you put in your effort, but only your family gets your emotions. And so on my desk, Paul, I'm learning it must be upstairs, stoicism, learning to just control my emotions because I'm such a passionate, driven guy. But you could really lose your marbles if you're always worried about who's not showing up.
Yeah. We've talked about that a lot. And you and I are both the same that way, that, this is what I love. This is what, my kids have been through it. My wife's in the medical field, and I love to see kids thrive. And I know that if they're not showing up, the chances of them thriving are less and less and less. And, when they walk out of the doors at 100 and Central, I want to know that they had the best possible experience that they could have. And part of that is, yes, winning games, but also being a good person, learning how to talk to an adult the right way. I had a kid walk in my office the other day and say, bruh, how do I do this? I said, did you just call me bruh?
Mm-hmm.
We had that conversation. He goes, well, how old are you? And I said, well, I'm in my 50s. He goes, well, that's why. That makes sense. I said, really? I said, so if you came to my house and you had a business and you walked up to the front door and said, bro, I want to paint your house, you think you'd get that? He goes, oh, I guess I understand what you're saying. Yeah.
You guess you understand?
But it's more than just the sets and reps. We say that
Leadership.
all the time.
Leadership. We sometimes take it for granted, but then you do a closeout and you say, hey, who would like to close out? And then, John Smith or Susie Smith comes up. I've had kids start to break down because they had to just give a little 30-second speech at the end. Okay. I've seen football players almost cry because they were going to say something like, let's keep working hard. Let's keep getting after it. Let's get it. That brings them to tears. The weight room builds self-esteem, self-confidence, leadership, and eventually those kids are no longer going to walk on to the basketball court, the volleyball court, the soccer field, etc., but they will walk into a weight room again, and they will take those skills and apply it to life. I've said it many times. Strength training gave me a life, and it saved my life. And so when people hear us say these things, I'm with you. And listen, why do I get tough on kids like you and I say? Because we want to see them succeed. How do we know? Because I've watched many kids stop training in season or be inconsistent. And then when it really counts of like making it to a certain level or winning something, 98.3% of the time, they lose because they didn't do the work behind the scenes, or they did the comfortable work, right? There's a difference in doing double bent over kettlebell row versus sitting on your butt, chest support row on a machine. Difference. I know you got to go, Paul.
Yeah, I have to take off, but
Awesome.
I love this. I want to plug that Zach and I are going to be making a trip down to Charlotte, North Carolina in a couple of weeks. We're going to be video blogging the whole time. We'll be
Yes.
live. I know Zach has a huge Instagram following, so we're going to use his platform, and we're going to let you guys. This is something that a lot of coaches don't do anymore. Just jump in a car and go out and get to a conference and make connections, and getting ready to see our friend Mark Hoover and some other great coaches in North and South Carolina. We're pretty excited about that. So
Yep.
stay tuned.
All right, Paul, you hit the road. I'll keep recording. I'm going to elaborate on that. So January 19th, Paul and I will be driving down to North Carolina. Paul, I think I could exit you out of here, buddy.
Okay, I can leave. Thanks,
man. All right. Later, my
soon.
bro. Bye, brother. All right. Paul is heading out. Good. Okay. And we're still recording. So we're going to it's called Feed the Cats. Tony Holler's putting it on. It's conjunction with Simply Faster, who I've written articles for. Amazing website, lots of technology, very much speed-based. And I'm going there to learn more, consistently learning, always a white belt. And most of all, I love the conversations that happen in between sessions, after, before. And so on our way down to North Carolina, we will be doing like Instagram lives, taking questions. So make sure you're following myself and Paul. And it's going to be a great event. If you're in that North South Carolina area, make sure you head down there. So we wanted to tackle two topics: athleticism and attendance. If you have gone through the underground strength coach certification, I've seen guys who are still strength coaches who did that cert before 2010, 14, 15, 16 years ago, still utilizing exercises from the warm-up and the program design. When parents ask me about the focus of our program at the Underground Strength Gym, I tell them it's to build athleticism, overall athleticism. That means we're blending strength, power, speed, building muscle, AKA body armor, building grit, mentally, emotional resilience. And like Paul said, taking those skills and applying them to life. And it is a major missing component of this younger generation's world. And I'm sometimes actually in shock when a young teenager or an older teenager can hold a conversation with me, speak politely, appropriately, and make eye contact. And, some people will say, "Oh, Zach, you're putting down these kids. You're being mean." I am not. I'm stating the facts. And through the podcast and all my content, those are the answers to building strong athletes. That's why this is the Strong Life podcast. How do you take lessons from the weight room, from strength training, and apply them to life? And we've got major issues with this younger generation that's going to negatively and is already negatively impacting their health. Think about it. I'm 48. If you are in your 40s, you did not have mental health anything happening in the schools or trainings of any sort, because these challenges were simply called life. Okay. They were called life, and you had to face them head on. And on the flip side, who's responsible for creating these kids that are struggling with life? It's me, parents like myself, because we want to protect our kids, because we love them so much. We don't want them to have to go through this challenge, that challenge, ABC, XYZ challenge. But the bottom line is, the challenge is what shaped us. I had a conversation with a sport team today, and I had to explain to them, listen, you guys, you're training for this sport. I'm not going to mention the sport. They're training for a sport. But some of you disappear for months. Some of your teammates who are seniors are the same size as they were freshman year. They've maybe gained 8 pounds. So they've gained 2 pounds a year. That's actually unhealthy. There's no way a kid is maxed out in 8th grade size-wise. And so I said, the issue is you have no inspiration to be strong and powerful and jacked. I said, you want to know why I was inspired? Because I could get my ass kicked every week by somebody because I wasn't strong looking. I wasn't strong at all, but I also wasn't strong looking. My body didn't send a message of don't fuck with that guy. As soon as I started building muscle and veins started showing in my arms and my chest started stretching through my shirt, people treated me differently. Okay. Girls, of course, pay attention to that. But kind of the older kids that would normally maybe mess with you and decide to pick a fight with you just to impress their friends, they changed their attitude. And I actually remember some of those kids who, when I was in like sixth grade and they were in eighth grade, they would bully me and call me names and all kinds of stuff. Well, when I was wrestling my freshman year, there was so many kids came out for the wrestling team. And even though I lost all my wrestle-offs, I remember beating some of those older kids, and I wasn't even that strong, but I could do a good amount of pull-ups, good amount of push-ups. I was probably dumbbell benching 30s and 35s, with those spin-on dumbbells. And that was at the beginning. And I got to tell you, I know, for those of you who have read about Andre the Giant in my Encyclopedia of Underground Strength, and I've spoken about him on my podcast, you could go on my YouTube, type in Romanian weightlifter, or search him on my blog. If Andre would have taught me how to do cleans and weightlifting, I would have learned how to be strong and powerful. It would have completely changed my life. I even have to tell my kids, if you are a successful athlete, people treat you differently. That's the reality. You are treated like a more royal person. People judge you by how you look, by past experience and success. Okay. If you are a former professional athlete, there's a lot of respect and attention towards you. Okay. And listen, rightfully so. Are all pro athletes, great people? No. But just like, weak people are not nice and strong people mean, and vice, there's jerk offs everywhere. But the reality is people judge you. That's even why at the Underground Strength Gym, I've had to fire and turn away interns. If they're fat, if they have bad breath, if they look disheveled, these are all things that do not allow them to inspire the athletes we train. And I tell them straight up, I need to be very protective over who I allow to enter these doors, because these athletes are everything to me. Aside from my own family, these kids are everything. And I will not allow somebody to come in and be, I'm tired, or I'm working on getting back into training, or I'm trying to get into shape. No, if you're a strength coach, it's not a job. As my boy Craig Fitzgerald said, it's a calling. And so you live the code. You uphold the standard. You are strong. You are fit. You are powerful, looking and doing. That's all I got for you guys. Strong Life Podcast. Make sure you leave a 5-star review. Check out all the links below. If you want to do business consultation with me, there's a link for that. If you want to find out about my certifications, that is linked up. I'm linking up Paul Kolody's new Instagram. He's got an Instagram for his school. This one's going to be for like his personal brand. And I've been posting business videos for strength coaches. You must have multiple streams of income. You can't just get paid from the high school or the college. You need another aspect. My friends, Joe Riggio, Dan Goodman at Varsity House Gym, they have the gyms, but then they also have the business of strength, and the business of strength houses all the seminars they've done. They record them. So that is a education hub for strength coaches. So they have multiple gyms. Within the gym, they have multiple streams of income, whether it's clothing, food, supplements, and then training different people, adults, athletes. So at the Underground Strength Gym, we have adults. They do one-on-one, kind of like VIP coaching, and we have the athletes. And so actually, for those listening, we have a new intern likely starting tomorrow. We'll see how that goes. Looking forward to meeting this guy. I think he'll be pretty good. But I would like a coach that could come to the Underground Strength Gym and run our adult programs, 6 a.m. and 9 a.m. something like that. And you would get salary for that, or like an hourly wage. And then if you want to make more money, you can do private training during the off hours. And so the private training we do is we say it cannot cannibalize what we're already doing. So you can't do private training and take athletes when we would normally train them in groups, you know? So if you are interested, send me your resume, undergroundstrengthcoach@gmail.com. And what I like to see instead of a resume is a 4-minute unlisted video on YouTube. Tell me about yourself. Tell me why you think you'd be a great fit to the Underground Strength Gym team, and what you would bring to the table, and how we could better work together. That's it, team. Zach Evanish, Paul Kolody already checked out. You guys are awesome. Let's kick the shit out of 2024.